on the screen, create bedtime routine that includes relaxation, prayer. Make sure your children get out to play. Oh my goodness, what have we done with our city? High-rise apartments. Where do children play? Church environment, play space for children. My book is here, I've told you, Parenting with Purpose. And I talk about parental presence a lot. Engage parents who are able to set boundaries and limits for their children. Because although they are present, especially the authoritarian dad is absent emotionally, they lower the children's self-esteem. And one of the worst things you're having is boys with low self-esteem. No wonder they get into gangs. No wonder they start doing substances. One young man said that he envies his father. His friends, because he's in a football match, football team. And when he plays wonderful football, the other fathers are there to see their sons play. And when the children come off the field, the fathers come, put their arms around their sons, and they walk in step. Daddy saying, son, I'm so proud of you. This boy looks standing there, and he says, I wish. Yes. So let's set limits by offering curfew, device time, discuss the use of social media in the family, especially family business meetings. I wonder how many of us here, my husband and I used to speak, we have done couples for so long. We have done church conferences and preached together. How many of us here, let me ask a question of lifting hands. How many of you here have family business meetings? Not family altar. You have a committee meeting in the church, right? You have a committee meeting in the circle. You have a committee meeting in the bank. How about committee meetings at home? With a minute book, matters arising, agenda, resolutions. Yay! Some people clap for these ones. Others now, if you don't have a committee meeting at home, who are you waiting to have a committee with your children? I won't go into that. It's in my book. Get it and read more. So promote in-person social engagement, church meetings, let children get into drama, Christian camps, family get-togethers. That's the agenda of the church. Social gatherings that enrich the way children, the boys, are able to express themselves, increase those. Parents can set standards. So on the table, how many of us eat dinner, at least dinner on the table, every day with your children? Hands up. Okay. Most days, at least 3 days in a week. Thank you for not lying. Some of you travel a lot. I was married to a traveler. But whenever my husband came as an evangelist or everywhere, the man would behave as if he never left. Sit at the family table, discuss these things. Current news, collaborative, respectful communication, skills of a good citizen, values of the country, and so on and so forth. So bottom line here is we are living in a very busy world, my brother traveler. A very busy world. What we need to do is balance our work and our lives. Are you hearing me? Work-life balance. So when did it start raining on us so that they can end? Globally, we are told that 1 in 7 10 to 19-year-olds experience a mental disorder. 1 in 7. That's a very high number. Suicide is the 4th leading cause among 15 to 29-year-olds. And it is 2/3 higher for males than for females. Boys are more likely to commit suicide and succeed. Them, they don't play. Girls are afraid of the pain. Boys go all the way. Failure to address adolescent mental health challenges will lead to massive adult mental health disabilities. Male crime is on the high rise, theft, and so on. And then we have the LGBTQ agenda. I wonder how many heads of churches are here and how many of you have addressed LGBTQ in your church? Yes, amen. I'm seeing hands. And you have made even the press know the stand of your church. Amen. Now, what happened? When did they find us on the pulpit having gay priests? What happened? To Ilana, did you sleep? And now they can come and change my little boy into a girl by injecting hormones. And they're doing operations. Come on. Demonic. Yeah. Demonic from you. Thank you, brother. We have so many things from New York, painted and labeled beautifully. Shame on us to think that a woman priest, another day in a church in US, a woman priest stood up and said, by the way, I have not introduced my husband. Yeah, I've been living together for several years. Some of you didn't know my husband. Stand up. Voila, a woman stands up. When did the rain start beating us? Okay, so finally, Christ is the one who takes away sin from our lives. He is the one who straightens our voice for us. So does Christ live in our sons' lives? Do they know to whom they belong, whose they are? Do they know where to go when they are lonely and belittled and bullied? Do we preach the Christ of hope to our sons? Are they transformed? Do we model integrity and the fullness of life in Christ? Or are we like the world? There must be a difference for our children because they come to church. Are we lifting the eternal I am above money, property, education, career, success? Are we, as parents, a safe place for our sons? Can our sons say, Daddy, can I have a word with you? Or they'll be trembling in their boots before he looks at them in the eye and say, don't you realize our church committee is starting now? Sorry about that. My books are ready for use for church programs. Please start parenting teams in your churches. Those around, I'm ready to come to you. We are very much on virtual also. We can train a team from Nigeria on Zoom. Call us. How can we assist our children? There's ropes program, training camps, immersion into the Bible. Do they know the word? Have they memorized? Is the Bible read in our homes? Are we helping boys to change to men? Do we have church-based multidisciplinary counseling teams? Because these professionals are in our sanctuaries, we are ready to train your teams for your church. And then back to home-based cell groups and mentorship programs. My prayer is that may the African church wake up from our sleep. Amen? Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, can we read it together? Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent and praiseworthy, think about such things. Question and answer, that's us, Oasis Africa, those are our contacts. I am done. Sorry for taking more time, but thank you for not stopping me.
Hearty applause. Thank you so much.
I propose we have a standing ovation.
Thank you so much, Dr. And you can see a special guest to receive. Thank you so much, Dr. We are very pleased. You may have your seats. I'd like to acknowledge the presence of the Vice Chancellor, Canon Professor James Kombo, who will be addressing us at the end, but that is the man under whom we are gathered here, and we're grateful to have you, Professor. A few years back, as I was working in pastoral ministry in a parish somewhere, we were organizing a camp that you have mentioned, Daktari, and the teenagers were in school, in boarding school, and we had agreed with the parents that shortlisted the names of the children towards closer to the time of the conference. We were calling the parents and asking them, next week at such and such a time, we will be leaving and this and that, we'll meet here, we'll go for 2 hours etc. And this parent says, Pastor, you know those names that I've given you of my 2 sons, now there's a challenge now that they're home. You know, they were calling to ask which friends of theirs are coming for the camp. And you know, now as a parent, I don't know anymore. I think they won't be able to come for the camp. Pastor, what can I do? The problems of the indolent boy child. That is where we are. But to help us continue to unpack this, we have a brief panel discussion that will help us to unpack some of the questions. Another interesting one is that we are having young people who are saying they don't want to be religious. Is Africa a religious continent? If you look at the census of 2019 here in Kenya, we have about 1 million who identify as non-religious or atheist. And if you talk to them, I've done some research with a number of them, they will tell you faith is a myth, science is about facts. And then we have our elder here who will be joining us briefly. We still talk about some of those gaps around culture, the knowledge and the wisdom we have from our cultural heritage that has not been passed down. But fortunately, I'm not the one answering those questions. Let me invite one by one to join us. We have Dr. Lucy Gashenia, is a marriage and family therapist, Karibu. A marriage and family therapist, yes, and counseling psychologist, and she is one of our faculty members. You're welcome to the front, Daktari, and she'll be helping us and giving us another scientific perspective. We may clap for her as we work. We have Mrs. Lydia Minor. She's our university counselor, and she's finalizing her doctorate in clinical psychology, and she's also a church elder at PCA Mount Olives in Kirigiti Parish. We also have with us our elder, we call him that, Dr. Sami Giduku. He's an Old Testament scholar, and he's passionate about the indigenous knowledge which we have tapped from him time and again. Karibu sana, Daktari. We also have with us Canon Professor Okumu Bigambo. He's an associate professor in communication psychology at the University of Eldoret. Karibu sana, Professor. If you looked at your programs, we have 3 questions which I hope we can try and tackle in about 40 minutes. Dr. Mwiti, maybe if you have some time also, you can join us at the front. I know this was not planned, but Reverend Neto, if I could request you, as one who works with young people, it would be also important for us to just hear the voices of the young people. Please also come to the front. Good, I think we are well constituted gender-wise and generationally, as you have said. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there is this question before us. As we think about the problem of raising the boy child in the age of science, one question is, how are you seeing in your own context science affecting the boy child? I'll ask the other questions to the 2 panelists on my left. So for the 4 of us, Mrs. Lydia coming to my right, how is science affecting the boy child? From where you sit, Lydia, I know you work a lot as a university counselor and you have more insight. Let me ask for an extra mic, if there is one.
Thank you. Let me start by appreciating Dr. Mwiti for that great presentation. Dr. Mwiti is also my teacher, so that really went well. Yeah, so how is the boy child affected in this era? And one of the things I may want to talk about is that the boy child is actually impacted more than the girl child when it comes to issues science. I may want to start by picking on one area, and that is technology. And what's happening is that in the use of the social media and other platforms, you'll find that the boy child, for example, is more involved in matters like gambling. You know, you'll find there are very high incidents of gambling, for example, when it comes to the boy child compared to the young girl. And sometimes when in my work here as a university counselor, when I explore deeper, you will find that there's also the pressure of the young man to perform, to have more money and that kind of a thing. And they will go to an extent of even using part of their school fees to gamble and that kind of a thing. The other thing I've also found affecting this young man in the face of science is also getting into the social media, for example, and other platforms, and getting addicted into, they have behavioral addictions, for example, pornography and that kind of a thing. So those are a few things I may want to talk about to start with as impacts of science to the young man.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Lydia. I don't know if there's any addition, Dr. Gashania, Professor, if there's an addition to what has been said.
Okay, thank you so much. How are you? Yes, I may add an addition, little bit of it. When you're looking at raising a boy child in the age of science, it can either be positive or negative. Science can actually bring out a positivity or negativity depending on how it is actually used. I think Dr. Mwiti has talked quite a lot about it, and one of the things maybe I just want to add would be it has also enhanced physical development for the boy child. Maybe getting to know a lot about scientific knowledge. It may contribute to sports science, those who are interested in that. And this helps in terms of promoting the boys who engage in sports, and that can actually be very helpful to them. Something else, maybe this time negative, would be desensitization to violence. Too much of this, when they're exposed to violence or content that is violent, would also make them, the boy child, aggressive, violent, and maybe this would be a change of behavior that would be inappropriate. I think in my counseling profession, one of the things I've also come across is the issue of pornography, as she has talked about, masturbation. You know, a lot of it is happening with the young people, and we hardly get to know about it as parents, you know, because maybe we are not really into finding out what it is they are doing. So in as much as we are saying that science is good, yeah, it has come up with so much, but on the other hand, I think we also need to be cautious and advise our youth accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doc. We have a second question here, but I wanted to hear the perspective of the young people. So the discussions also have to do with how the views we have about what it means to be a boy, what it means to be a man, masculinity, or this image of what does it mean to be a strong boy or a strong man. We were having a very interesting discussion when we were having lunch, and I think the keynote speaker, Dr. Muti, raised the issue of, you know, the empowered girl on one hand and the disempowered boy on the other hand. Maybe Reverend Meto, you could just give us an insight from your pastoral practice and engagement with young people. Do you see, are there those gaps? Are you seeing that in your work with young people? So I'd like to hear a little bit of that, and then we will, before we look at the question before us.
Okay. Thank you. First, I want to thank Dr. Mwiti for a very insightful presentation. I think this was the most emotional presentation. I could see everyone very connected with your presentation, Daktari. And maybe before I answer your question, Dr. Kevin, I would like to make an observation that in this generation, and Daktari really mentioned that today we have 40-year-old boys, if I may use that word, a generation of young people who are already parents, but then the language here is they. We are looking at the boys and we are using the language they are scrolling on their phone, they are on TikTok, they are on this, but it's us who are setting the, precedents. And so I was asking myself this question during the presentation that, so what are we doing? We are the parents in this generation, but the things that you are talking about are the things that we are doing as young parents. Myself, I'm a youth, but I'm already a parent of a teenage boy, 14 years old. And then when we talk about TikTok, I have a TikTok account, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Facebook, I scroll my phone midnight. Sometimes I sleep at 4 a.m. just because I was on social media. I'm using I as an example, but I know this is what we, 50% of the population here go through. And so there's a lot into it. When we talk about the issue of role modeling, and I'm a pastor in a church, and then I'm asking myself, in so many churches we see a group of elders seated somewhere. Then we have the church women, the mothers guild, the mothers union, then we have the youth. So for me there's again a disconnect where we tend to try and imagine that the young people are doing this, they are doing this, but there's no that conversation where the elders are able to sit with the young people and try to understand what they are going through. But all the same, I think today we have a very weird way of looking at things. We look at and measure success in terms of the things that we see. We want to drive the best cars, we want to have money. Today we want to be employed and earn in dollars. If you're looking for a job, young people, we want to earn in dollars, we want to drive the best cars, we want to live in the most expensive places, even though we are not able to afford, but we want to be like other people. So that at my age, I want to feel life the way Dr. Githuku will be feeling with his savings for over 70 years ago or 50 years. But then I want to be, enjoying the same class as him. And so those are the challenges that the young people are going through today. We want to have, a good-looking boyfriend. People want to be connected with so many girlfriends. My girlfriend works with the UN, my girlfriend does this and that. And so today it's about what we talk about and then what we post and what we want the world to see. Sometimes we just want to go to Java or KFC, take a selfie, eating nice, but then the money is borrowed or it's a loan. And so at the end of the day, young people fall into depression. And sometimes we can't even be able to understand what we are going through or be able to explain exactly. For example, if I'm seated with a counselor and they want to know what I'm going through, even myself, I don't know what I'm going through. So those are the challenges today, Doctor.
Thank you so much, Reverend, for speaking. Your heart is speaking on behalf of the young people. You raise an interesting point that I've always also reflected on, is that sometimes we complain about the young generation, but sometimes they are a reflection of the adult society. But let's look at this second question. We have a question here, which I want our elder Dr. Githuku and then Professor Bigambo can also give some insight. The question is, how has the development process of the boy child differed in contemporary society? And there's a thought here around the social aspects, the emotional aspects, the cognitive or the intellectual aspects, the spiritual aspects, and the physical aspects. So how has the development process of the boy child differed in contemporary society? Dr. Githuku, if you wouldn't mind as well, as you look at this modern society with all this technology and all this science, AI, and you think back of the knowledge and the cultural wisdom that was there perhaps in the past, what differences are you seeing when you look at our society today?
Thank you very much, Gerefa. Thank you very much, Dr. Muti. First of all, I am not clear in a number of things. What we mean by boy child? I have heard from her saying a boy child who is 40 years. I think I also heard it from our presenter. Can we define what is boy child? And why are we not talking of girl child?
Maybe Dr. Muti can, since you've accused her, she can recuse herself.
The lecturer has been accused of not. A boy child is a child who is a boy, who is male. Seriously, who is male? And there's no confusion. Because God made them male and female, and nothing in between. Why? Boy child. Not girl. Oh, because the theme is boy child. Because I said a boy child has been left out as we have lifted the girl child. I mean, how much fighting has there been in our society for a child or a girl or female who has been pressed down by the males, isn't it? That we are in a culture where women are belittled, women don't have a voice, So let's correct that. So the West came, sorry to say, and they started giving us solutions on how to lift women, on how to lift girls, the girl child. So we have poured a lot of money in fighting for the girl child. Now, my argument is that when you find imbalance anywhere, you do not correct the imbalance by lifting the lower side, but by asking, or as well as asking, what is propping up the upper side? Are you hearing me? Because if you do not correct what is propping here, you end up creating an imbalance. So we are talking of the boy child because there is an imbalance in society. So I don't know whether my brother has another theory that he wants to use to fight the reality. He can tell us.
Okay, actually the answer, a boy who is a child. A boy child is a boy who is a child. A male boy. Okay, so age?
Whatever age.
Any age.
Problem begins from the womb and because they are born into a society that is not empowering them to grow as the Lord wanted them to.
Okay.
All the way from the parents.
Aya. Daktari, you may proceed.
Thank you very much. I asked that question because outside there we have heard this word again, boy child, boy child. And even now I'm not very clear. A child who has been born and is 2 years playing on the mother's lap, that can be a boy. A boy who is 12 years, or a child who is 12 years, is a boy. In some communities, if you call somebody a boy if they are 20 years, they will fight you. So what is this really that defines a boy? Does that vary from one culture to another? In some cultures, if you are 50 years, and you pass on without passing through a rite of passage, they will still call you a boy. So when the Bible says that some boys shouted at Elisha, how old were these boys? What is the biblical understanding of this boy? When the Bible says, don't spare the rod, you are going to spoil the child. What is the age of this boy who is being beaten with a rod? Is it 12 years? When the Bible says, beat him, you will not die. Is it a boy of 12 years? Certainly not. Actually, and I have Greek scholars here, they may help me. What is this definition of a boy? In the Hebrew world, a boy could be 18 years old. The boy is a boy who killed Goliath. He was not 12. Dr. Professor Kabiru, can you inject your Greek there? And what does that mean? And how old is he? So my point is we really need to be very careful how we define this term boy child. And be clear what age are we talking of, because that will vary from one culture to another. One other thing that was I gathered as our facilitator spoke was, it seems as years come by, we are getting worse and worse and worse. It seems the problems our forefathers had are very different from what we are encountering now. Isn't the solution probably to go back and reclaim those beautiful things that we've lost and throw away these things that we have imported from the West? Probably that is the way to go. I have forgotten your second question.
I think it's partially answered in a sense. So when you look at what are some of those good things? Maybe we can just allow him to answer that. What are some of those good things? In a few, maybe one or two things that you think these are things we could go back to.
Thank you very much. Let me, for example, give an example with the church, because I'm sure you're going to. The church has done a big mistake. There are some communities that have these huge rites of passage ceremonies that are done during Christmas, after class 8. Culturally, that is not the responsibility of churches. Do the churches qualify? Or do the churches run it for the sake of money? If you ask some people, they'll tell you it is because those institutions are running for money. And that's something the church, as a church, we have to correct. If we can go back, for example, there is this rites of passage. There are some communities that the boys go there for 3 months. Schools where people are trained about their culture, their moral values. Today, there are people who go through, become adults. They have never gone through that cultural school. If we can be able to bring those cultural books and instill morals, that will be an achievement.
Thank you so much, Dr. Charlie. So we can allow Dr. Mwiti to make the comment, and then Professor Mugambo can weigh in. The question was, how has the development process of boy child differed in contemporary society across all those domains?
I just want to look at something in my book. And indeed, our brother has spoken very, very, very well, because the definition of a boy, to me, has nothing to do with age in years. It has something to do with moral development he talked about here. This book, Parenting with Purpose, is sold globally and is selling very well all over the world. I have one person who did an endorsement in this book. It's a man by the name of Larry Stone, Dr. Larry Stone, former Vice President of Thomas Nelson Publishers, President of Routledge Hill Press, Editorial Manager of Africa Study Bible, author of The Story of the Bible, father and grandfather in USA. And what he said is, Parenting with Purpose and African Wisdom is one of the best books on parenting I've read. The African wisdom in this book will benefit non-Africans as well as Africans. I was particularly struck by the author's insight on the need for fathers to mentor their sons to become men. That's why he said it's not years. It's a mentor. In this book, I speak as a Meru. Of course, the proverbs I'm using are biblical and also African proverbs, but I speak as a Meru. And I say one of the things that has happened in my tribe, the Meru, of whom I'm so proud. I'm proud of the rites of passage that the Meru had. One of the things that has happened in my tribe, and I've said in this book, is the loss of the Garo. The Garo was the abode of men that socialized boys to men. They had rights. And it was so organized, like a university or like a grade school. You move from one level to another, until by the time they get for you a wife or you get married, you know what it means to be a man, to be a father, to be a husband. And then they socialize them in what we call peer groups. Peer groups are not negative. When you are socialized together as a group, then you become mutual caretakers of one another. You watch out for each other, don't behave like that. That's not in our age group. That was the Garo. But then the Garo has disappeared among the Meru, more or less disappeared. But what has happened, the Kioro, the abode of women, where women socialize their girls to become women, is almost intact. It has not dissolved. Women are there saying, daughter, sit like this. Go serve your father. Of course, you know there's rebellion today. Serve your father. Do like this. Women's roles are still quite clear in my tribe. But men's roles, the arrow has disappeared. So he is saying, Dr. Stone, the whole globe all over needs to realize they need to have their own roles in whatever culture they are. And my argument is that the church can represent the roles of this world that have dissolved. The church can be the alternative through ropes, through whatever. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Canon Professor Kumu Bigambo. I am a communication psychologist at teach at Moi University. And I come from Eldoret diocese. I also come from Nambale diocese. And I'm a serious Anglican practitioner when I talk about this science. Ladies and gentlemen, when we meet here, let us not become scholars who start, just telling stories and we have a problem in our hands. Madam, Dr. Michi, you remember we met, you and I were invited to the All Saints Cathedral and we were discussing issues of marriage in this country. And then I had a moment I was invited, I've been to Kirinyaga and other places, handling issues of, couples. Ladies and gentlemen, I have to warn ourselves that the truth of the matter is that there's silent family terrorism. Silent family terrorism. Whether we are talking about the girl or the boy, there is silent family terrorism that we must just dig into to understand the girl and to understand the boy. When my brother asked the question of what's the definition of a boy, it's like you teach philosophy. And I was a student of philosophy and psychology. It's very, very crucial to get the right definition. And as we speak, we know today, ladies and gentlemen, that the family has become mysterious. It is mysterious. I had a retreat of priests in Mombasa, and I was telling them, the priests engage in pastoral work. They go help other families to succeed, and their families go down. Look at the children of a number of priests, bishops, and the like. Look at their children. They do pastoral work elsewhere, and there's other families succeed, and there is trouble where you're coming from. I am arguing, ladies and gentlemen, that the family is mysterious today. The science, the theory we are talking about today is mysterious, and therefore, we are talking about the interpretation of science. This boy's interpretation of science from the point of view of the mother and the father. The current science has messed up the father. It has messed up the mother. And this child's interpretation of science, therefore, is from the father's point of view, the mother's point of view, and therefore the child is in trouble. Our child is in trouble, and we have now got to understand the truth of the matter is, and they speak with such a more amount of such a strength. But the truth of the matter is that fathers have lost their self-esteem. It's gone. They have lost their elegance. They have equally lost their passion for life. When a father has lost a passion for life, where is the son going to? The father is supposed to be this child's encyclopedia. And now the fathers, as they are, wherever they are, they have lost passion for life. Who is going to inject passion for life into this boy? The boy now, because of the silent family terrorism, goes into, reads or engages in films or whatever it is that are terroristic. So the child, instead of now engaging in what adds value to him, he engages in what makes him suffer. And that's why a lot of them today are even committing suicide. I look at the fellows I have at the university. I've been teaching at Moy University for 35 years now. I look at those boys. Something small, a girl drops this boy. The fellow goes up the tall building and comes down head first. Commits suicide. This boy is a fool. Why? Because the father is a fool. The father has not been able to socialize this boy to be an adult. And I've just been sharing with my sister, beloved Bishop Bondo, that I was addressing clergy in Ambani Diocese last weekend. And I told them, we have Bishop-elect. I told Bishop-elect and the Mama Bishop-elect as they get into office, they must work with, revamp, redirect, re-guide Mothers Union, re-guide Kama, and be able to access the family afresh. So that we really get to the child and get to know. That's why the foundation of the church is. And for us, we have therefore got to understand that the children, the boy is behaving the way he is behaving because there's a knowledge gap. There's a knowledge gap between the father and the child is struggling for relevance, looking for relevance. And in the process, the child is looking for meaning. This boy is looking for meaning. So when these boys when they are lured into any behavior, it's the search for relevance, the search for meaning. At home, there's no longer relevance. So we have a problem in our hands. And as we meet like this, ladies and gentlemen, it's not a matter of just saying praise be to God. God gave us the powers. And as born again, I know very well that he told us we have the powers to stamp onto the devil. The devil is in our midst. We have got to rehabilitate the family, rehabilitate ourselves. The main Mahamas coaches back on forward to help us become relevant in the space that is ahead of us. And this space includes us, the fathers, and the child, the boy who is going to take over from us. Otherwise, we have no inheritance. Thank you.
That sounds like a sermon, a canon. I can see where you're a canon. Sante, very, very passionate comment there and raising up a few issues. We are moving to the last question. How can faith-based institutions intervene? But I want to bring back our counselors, our psychologists, to make a comment. I think one of the things that also has come out from the last comment is the changing face of the family. We now have the realities of the blended family where the boy has the real father is with another family and imported is a new father with that kind of language. So the blended families of more than two sets of parents perhaps. And there's a boy there, those realities around fatherlessness. Here speaking to both father absentees in terms of physical presence, not being there, but also for those who are there being emotionally present, perhaps from a negative view of masculinity. The question here is, in light of that, what are some of the interventions that we could take? We will move to the church, but in your practice, what are some of the interventions to this gap that has been addressed by Professor Migambo? We are in trouble. There is a confused set of family. What do we do now with that boy child who is in that place, that confused place?
Okay. Let me start by acknowledging Dr. Giduku's question. It's important because when we talk about the boy child, what exactly do we mean? And when you think about the story of the boy child, it started with the girl child. And it started with the girl child empowerment. And so the girl is to be empowered because she's left behind in education, there are no opportunities, and so the argument was, let's empower this girl, and then she's able to take care of the household. Perfect. And that thing went the way it went. The girl child went to school, the numbers improved significantly. And what happened? This girl is now empowered, and the gender roles for this particular girl changed. When they change, what happens is that the young man, or the man, the male, whatever age, is now not able to deal with this new, kind of a thing. The power, the submission that is expected in the traditional African culture, that one is not happening. And so, what's happening now? Let's empower the boy child, because when we use that word, boy child, it has the connotation that the boy child is oppressed or disadvantaged. But I think we also want to be very careful how we, so that he can cope with this woman, all right? Because if we do it for that purpose, and so to respond to your question, Daktari, when the churches are carrying out initiation, is that exactly their role? Is it possible that they are stepping to bridge a gap that is not, being taken care of? Because if we insist on our traditions, then what happens to me if I live in a flat that is 1 bedroom? My son has to go through initiation, and if you go back to the scriptures, it's the issue of putting new wine in old wineskins. It won't work. So I think as science brings about advancement, as the landscape of parenting changes, then we have to grow with it, and we have to find what to adjust, where do we adapt, and all that. But can we still use that masculinity, teach them the same? They can still be strong men who don't have to solve family issues through fights and that kind of a thing. When they are left in relationships, like here, when I work with young men, can they agree to be left? We say, ukiachwa achika. That's what I keep telling them, ukiachwa achika. But then you also want to teach them emotional intelligence, where they are able to regulate their emotions and not necessarily, go out fighting. What we do at St. Paul's, the counseling program, we have created what we call safe spaces. And safe spaces are areas where these young people can express themselves, not just the girls, but the men also. And so we have forums where the young men meet. We started with a girl chat, and this one was born when COVID struck. And a good number of our girls were either pregnant or dropping out of school. The issues you saw out there were also happening here. And so we start this forum, and the girls meet and we talk. But the young men said, we also want that. And we started the men talk. And so the men talk has better attendance than the girls. And so they'll sit there and talk about relationships, and talk about, issues money, issues parenting, and that kind of a thing. In addition to that, we still have, the counseling on one-to-one, where someone asked about counseling in churches. Where I serve, every place I've served in church, I've always trained peer counselors. I believe peer counseling program is a very strong one, because it's the peers, people on the ground working with their peers. And why it's effective, when it comes to issues, mental health, one does not have to make a 360 turn to change their life. It's amazing. that you only need to, to shift a little bit, and the trajectory of that person's life changes completely. So it's something I would encourage each and every institution to have and be ready to invest in. Asante.
Thank you. We can clap for her as we now hear the party. Do you want to say something, Doc? Okay.
Okay, so I think when we're looking at the boy child, we would also want to look at it from the perspective of the generation in which they are. Like for instance, we have the millennials who are totally different generation. We have the Generation Zs that the technology favors most of them, and they are into that. They are born when technology is already there. We also have others who are coming after the Generation Zs, and these are the alphas, these young ones. So even when we're looking into the aspect of the boy child, we're also looking at where these boys are in terms of their ages. We're also looking at the parents. Where are the parents? Because even in where we sit in this hall, some of us are in the baby boomers generation, that's 60 years and above. And our thinking about parenting a boy would be totally different from those that now are in the Generation X, the 40s and so on. So we need, even in our, wherever we are, we look at it from a different perspective and how these boys are behaving, because they are behaving differently. Those that were born, those that are being born now will be totally different from those, and their behavior will be different. So you need to look at that perspective. Then from the family, I want to concur with Professor about family. Yeah, because being a marriage and family therapist, this is where the problems have begun about even this boy child. And it begins right from birth. The attachment. What attachment do we have with our children? When the lady is expecting, are we there? When the baby is born, are we there? Are we present? Are we very busy? Because children develop secure attachment in a family that is functional. If the family is dysfunctional, then they do not develop that attachment. And from a dysfunctional family where the couples quarrel, we tell children, don't do this, don't do this. But that's exactly what we are doing. So we are modeling them the wrong way. And so when they are growing up, they are looking at us, especially now when they get to preteens and towards adolescence, they want to look at our families, the families they come from, and they're asking themselves, they kept telling us, this, don't do this, and that's exactly what they do. They start reasoning. So we are modeling these children. And sorry to say, from the perspective of maybe the clergy and the religious leaders, just in good faith, that the aspect of modeling, we are busy in church, that's for sure, because we cancel children from clergy, and we cancel children or wives of clergy and so on. So some of the things that these boys and come to tell us in counseling has to do with their past, the dads who are very busy. They tell us they go out there pastoring other people, but when they're in our houses, they are totally different people. So that you maybe being in church, being a pastor, being a clergy, of course we hold the clergy up there at the pedestal, they are up there. But at home, this dad forgets that he's a husband and forgets that he's a father. So what happens, they kind of take the authoritativeness at home, and maybe some, not all of them, but some fail to recognize the fact that, yes, they can be priests in their houses, but they have to play the role of a dad. So this boy is there watching my dad. And some will say, I don't even ever want to be a religious leader. and others will say how they are alienated from their homes. They are alienated. I belong there, but I don't belong there. My dad is even space. Sometimes we accommodate people in our homes as clergy, for instance, and we alienate these kids. Maybe go and share a bedroom or shift to here. Pastor so-and-so is coming with their wife. They are going to sleep here in shift. Go to this other room. They get so pissed off. So there are some of those things that even for us who are religious readers, actually, we need to ask ourselves that question. From where I'm coming from as a dad or a clergy, how is my family? Am I fixing me? How is my wife? They tell us, the wives also tell us, when I see him preach at the pulpit, I look at him and I'm wondering, really? What are you saying? Exactly. Because at home, they had even fought. At home, things were not working. By the way, I've realized in families, most of the cases are coming from believers, born again Christians, the marriages, not from the secular people, from the marriage, the believers. So the wives tell us, I have to accompany my husband because he's the chaplain, he's the bishop. And when I'm sitting there, everybody is saying, hi, such. But when I'm looking at him preaching, and whatever he's preaching, it is what he doesn't do at home. It really pisses me off. So even when they are traveling, they are just keeping quiet. They are mum. They are not talking. And the children can observe this. So what do you think makes children, maybe adolescents, after they leave us, stop coming to church? Have you ever asked yourself that question? What makes, if you look at where you belong, I don't know where you belong, maybe Anglican or whatever, what is the population of the youths, the boys, children in those churches? Why? Because they observe us, and kind of they are getting pissed off by this religion thing and faith and whatever that is not modeled appropriately from home. So I think there is space there that we need to think about in terms of us medding our families. And maybe what can we do maybe when it comes to the boy child, not just the boy child, but also this other girl child. What can the church do? Maybe that would be an important question to us. But it all begins with me. Being there, those of us here who are young parents, and where you are pastoring, you also have young parents, have topics about the importance of parenting young children. What is it they do? What can they do to help? You don't leave the kids to the mates, and so on. So there is a lot that needs to come into play. Thank you.
Excellent. To Pedia Makovic, let us clap. I think we've had the two parting shots. I wanted to ask the remaining four to give a parting shot in 30 seconds. The question was on how can faith-based institutions intervene? You can respond to that, or what do you want to leave us with? When we are discussing this, we're saying there's cultural wisdom. There's the role of the church. Dr. You've said, how I like to put it is, some things are better caught than they are taught. Some things are better caught than they are taught. You've talked about counseling peer counselors or training peer counselors in the work of the church. But for the other four, please feel free to just in 30 seconds give us a closing parting shot. My good people, I have not forgotten you. As we draw towards the end, we have a closing Q&A. I have to finish by 5 p.m., so we have some time for you to ask questions. So as we prepare that, we can have a parting shot. We can just begin with the Reverend and move that way, but we'll skip Dr. and Mrs. Lida because I think they spoke last.
So I want to talk about the empowerment of young people in general, so that when we talk about empowering the young people, it's not just about giving them information and counseling them and all this. It's good to also give them responsibilities. For example, at home, if you have a business, You know, at the age of 18, they can manage your business. In church, young people can become the church treasurer. You know, sometimes we just feel like they will run away with the money. But then, let's not just talk about young people, yet we are not seeing them, we are not hearing them. Give them responsibility, hold them accountable. That way we'll have a very responsible generation. Thank you.
Makofi to Reverend Winnie Meto. Asante sana. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, when you read James 3, verse 1, will tell you, let not all of us be teachers, because those of us who are teachers will be judged harshly. We are here waiting for the judge, and you and I are going to be judged harshly. I want to argue, ladies and gentlemen, that for us faith-based groups, we have an assignment to mitigate what's before us. I wanted to argue much earlier when we were talking about when Professor Chimerion had a team here, the idea of science and the like. I was to say, or let me say it now, we have scientists in our churches. Those experts are in our churches. They should be given a role to play, to raise means of how to overcome some of these challenges. Now, in our case, I want to argue that we need serious Christian hygiene. I do not know how you quantify the hygiene, but we need serious Christian hygiene, which includes the boy. We will need serious scientific hygiene. The scientists are equally parents. Wherever they are not coming up with anything to destroy their own. We are together in this. And then we will need, above everything else, what I call serious family hygiene. The moment we have lost the family, we lose the child. And when we lose the child, there is no future of that child. That child will not have a family. That's why our children, these days you have a boy who is 80 before you are above, is still mama's child in the house. So I think we have a problem. And the problem possibly is we are living a lie. There is a lot of pretense. And when we pretend with the work of God, I'll share with Bishop Emily here, that we are supposed to go beyond just banners, if you will, as you preach. Our Injili this time is supposed to be the kind of gospel or evangelism that delivers somebody from a hole, from a problem, so that we are problem-based, problem-solution-based approach to our lives. Otherwise, we are others here. Our children are in trouble. And it's from here, when we think of the way forward, we must be practical enough to know that this is what should be done to raise the girl child and the boy child properly. Madam here put it very right. We want to empower the boy child to do what? To bring out the girl child who is up already. We want just to have Christian hygiene, family hygiene, scientific hygiene, and have a successful family. And then successful grandchildren. Praise God. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor. We can clap for him.
Okay. Thank you for the richness of this conversation. My hope and my prayer is that we go back to the Bible, because we sometimes seem to borrow every other theory, forgetting that the Bible is very full of exactly what we need to bring up hygienic families, hygienic relationships and marriages and children. So my appeal is that what we do these 2 days may not be filed somewhere, but that the churches will move it into action and then plant it in Scripture. Can theologians seriously sit and give us the theology of, to take us back to doctrine, because many of us have forgotten, and we are borrowing everything. And then, can the churches now come up with programs, because it's nice to talk, but it's better to put what we do into action, so that actually we can move this debate into the church and get the professionals seated there and many other people of goodwill to actually take over and do some of the things that we are saying should be done. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. this is my part in short. God creates a people, given them a culture. All cultures are not perfect, including Judaism. They are faulty. God has given us the gospel to purify those bad cultures. But good cultures should be maintained if we are going to survive. Without culture, we cannot survive. Without the gallows, where we propagate our good values that God gave us, we will not survive. We can praise the Lord, we can sing day and night, we can go through tables, we will not survive. Keep the culture, every bad thing will be removed by the gospel, and we shall prevail. Also, please do not forget where we have come from. We have come from a past that has destroyed our ways of life. That's why we have fathers who know nothing. Because the Mzungu 40 years ago destroyed completely good and bad values. Please, I can't persuade you enough. Let us not throw everything that God has given us. Let us throw the bad one. We can get saved, but if completely we have no good values and morals that have been passed on from age to age. Let not everybody say that it is old. The Quran is old, it is still being read. The Old Testament is old, 2,000 years before Christ, it's still being read. Our culture just 70 years is old and should be thrown out of the window? No, keep it.
Thank you so much. A round of applause. With all due respect, if you are going to have a question or comment, please say the two of them, and then if there's a response needed, we can respond, and then Kerenyo will pass on the other side.
Thank you very much. Vice Chancellor and all the panelists. I think mine is very simple. Mine is, we are not just reminding them that they are men names. They call you Simon. Simon cannot be born again. It's Jenga who should be born again, because you don't know even Simon. So that one contributed a lot, because it's not a family that was affected. What I'm saying, you are Kikuyu Jenga born again. But when you are told you are Simon, there is nobody Simon. Simon is a known name there, but not here. That's one. Number two, also preachers, the priests, we have also contributed. You enter into the house with a Bible, black Bible, is a good one. This side has no bread, but the Bible is still on the right hand. Let me tell you, anytime you call your children to get the Bible on the table, they will do it because they obey you. But let me tell you, there is one time you call them, they hide under the table. Because this bread is supposed to carry a bread and the Bible on this side, or a meat on this side and the Bible on this side. Number two, I'm a student of this area boy child. I introduced the Bodaboda in this country in 2005 in Mudawuri, and we have employed 5 million people during the time when there was a Mungiki sector. Mungiki set, I was a pastor, and I did not say kill. My brother said kill. I say keep life. So we must really be building people, not institutions. Because you are building institutions which you have nobody to enjoy these institutions. So we must stand now to our children, we build them. We build. If there is an effort we can make, is to save our generation. Is to save our generation. We are building cathedrals. And that's my fellow bishop. And I believe Kibarabara does not have a cathedral. He has just a normal church. Don't build cathedrals. Build people's institutions. God bless you.
Thank you so much. Bishop, you know, I was advised to honor the culture, so I'm respecting you for those good comments. I don't know if I'll have a lot of patience, but please, you can make a comment.
My name is Paul Wanjohi. I come from Yedi. I am a practicing theologian, and I'm starting here to say that sons are like arrows in the hearts of a warrior. Psalms 127. Whoever releases them is blessed. they contend with the enemy at the gate. We are beaten in our own game because our quiver is empty. We are releasing just hot air. It's a high time we do what we must do. That's number one. Number two, we need to come up with a way of restoring the Adamic nature. Adamic nature. We may come here and bring a lot of persuaders. We advance them, which is good. Let's know the Bible is a book par excellence. I didn't hear us talk about culture as one of the biggest enemy of what we are talking about. There is a lot of confusion out there. We are telling them that this is the Adamic nature. This is the way God expects you to be. But out there, there are so many people who are contending with the Bible, hiding in the church, but they are challenging the theology. Let God help us to know we have many arms of theology. We have liberals, we have systematics, but I choose to be a conservative. I cannot challenge God, even going back to the discussion that we had in the morning. There can be no mistake in God. In mathematics, we calculate the answer from the known to unknown. The known is this: God created man upright. So all these other problems, let us solve them out from our head. Thank you.
Well, mine, I just wanted to balance between what he has said, because in the morning I mentioned about the youth, and I said, as a young person dealing with young people, I see a lot of young men starting to leave the church because they are saying the church is not masculine. Mostly they say the church is so emotional. And we're emotional because you find us on the floor crying, which is a good thing. So they tend to want to go back to the traditions, or else to go to our brothers, the Muslim brothers. And I feel there should be a balance somewhere where we can learn that which is good culture and balance with what is the theological aspect. Because I believe even Jesus himself followed the Jewish culture in one way or the other. But the problem, Professor, I have to say, is where now we go to the extreme, where our young men, we give them permission to come to that side and they go to the extreme. So I think that is my concern, where we can balance the church and the culture. Then the second thing that I felt we need to balance is to work as our keynote speaker spoke about. We need to come back to the foundation, because if the foundation be shaken, even if I bring that young man to you to mentor him on the Kikuyu or the Meru way, and the foundation is already wrong, then we have a problem. So we need to go back to the parenting and the foundation part of it. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. So we've had wait kidogo Kenya we had now 3 gentlemen speak. So we shall have, did you have your hand up? We'll have an Islamic perspective, and then we'll have the 3 sisters, women mothers speak to us.
Thank you. I think first of all I'll start with I refer to Quran, which I believe is something to close to what is in the Bible. So in the Quran we have a chapter we call Yusuf. Yusuf is Joseph, and if we look at how his father Jacob raised him, is that it narrates a sort of a story where Joseph had a dream of the sun, the moon, and the 11 stars prostrating or bowing before him. And after he had this dream, the first person he approached was his father. And I think if we are to interpret this shows the relationship of father and son that they had, and also later in his life, he gathered all his sons, all his 12 sons, and he asked them a question: in Quran it says, "Mata abuduna min ba'di." So after my demise or after I die, what are you going to worship? Because they had migrated from Canaan to Egypt at that time. So they were in Egypt, and in Egypt they were idol worshippers. So and then as a father, he wanted to put them into a test and to understand, have you interacted with the Egyptians to an extent where maybe your faith have in a sort of way changed into idol worshipping. So he asked them, "Mata abuduna min ba'di," what will you worship after me? They say, "Na'budu ilahak," will worship your God, "wa ilaha abaik," and the God of your forefathers. And he mentioned them, Ibrahim, Ismail, or Ishaq, Abraham, Ishmael, and Ishaq. So, and this was also, for us, it's also another thing that shows us his parenting, how it was, how he raised his children to faith. So, and I think there are other references. Because of time I won't. We have the story of Luqman. He's not in the Bible, but I will also refer to Professor Mazrui. He says that Africans are notoriously religious. And then, according to 2019 national census, in Kenya we are 98% religious. 98% we are affiliated to a certain faith, either Muslim, Christian, Hindu, and so on. So it's only that 1 point something that are either traditionalists or atheists. And we've seen even in the recent past, cabinet meetings are opened with a word of prayer. Not by a bishop, not by a sheikh, by the president himself. So it shows how much we are religious. So, and commuting in town, the first thing you will hear gospel music. If you go to business places, you hear, Quran recitation and so on. All this shows the extent in which that we've been affected by religion. But still, we are there, we are here. We are struggling with integrity, moral values. And what now we are having, our children, despite that we try to send them to, to places of worship, to church, to mosque and stuff, but still they are the ones also struggling with what? Pornography and, and so on and so forth, just to mention. So my question is, as religious leaders, where did we lose our way, or what are we not doing it right? I think that puts it in a proper perspective. Thank you.
So we can have Mama, then Scholar, then the lady at the top.
Yeah, I think when we started the discussion, it was about the boy child, but then it turned to be cultural. And I think we have a big problem in our nation, Kenya, concerning the boy child. And it did not start yesterday. Those who read the Bible, they know it started during the time of Moses. During that time, how the boy child was being killed. Even when Jesus was born, the boy child was also still killed. There were people who were asking, who is the boy child? It starts from conception. That when a boy is a boy, whether he is 1 day old, we know we are also dealing with a problem of abortion. It has been so much. Even organizations which talks about abortion and how good it is. When we know the word of God is different from that, I don't think it's from God. I think even we believers, maybe we have been quiet when we are supposed to be speaking. Today, our boy child is being killed. And they are dying in hundreds every week through alcohol, through drugs, and many other ways. And the plan of the enemy is to completely destroy the boy child. But I thank God to the midwives. I think it's our responsibility, all of us,
I'm out there in many places, and so I know what is happening in the slum areas, in villages. Our boy, especially the boys who are young, from 10 going up and maybe smaller, the enemy is working day and night to make sure that there will be no boy or there will be no man. And they are destroying the seed. And imagine, I usually tell women that though we say that we are the one who carry the seed, where does that seed come from? It comes from the man. And so, even as the boy child is being killed, even our men, and I'm now talking about men, grown-ups, somehow, emotionally and in many other ways, they are being killed. Not many of them who are able now to say no. Even in their families, there is some kind of fear. We need also to pray and look for ways where we should tell even men, hey, rise up and take your position. We have exalted so much, and it is true, the girl child, and we have forgotten where the seed came from. And so I think we have a duty, all of us, to save the boy child. It doesn't matter the age. It is our responsibility, whether you are a minister of the gospel or whether you are in the marketplace or wherever. We should know that just sit back and whatever comes we receive. Even about LGBTQ, what are they after? If a man marries a man, is it not a seed which is being killed? If a woman marries a woman, so there's an agenda which is hidden by the enemy, and many of us, we just think it's more than what we are seeing. And I believe we who are of faith, as we pray, and also others who are not of the same faith, I don't think anybody who is not of faith is for killing the boy child. So all of us, and especially in our nation, Kenya, we need to rise up and say no to some of these things, and not just say, but act towards that.
Thank you to the VC and the speaker and the panelists and all of us. I want to start by appreciating our keynote speaker on that area, and thank you also for your book and for the main things that you have captured. Of course, you could listen, you could hear how each one of us was very responsive, and I also want to echo the words of Past Bishop, who has talked about, we are not talking about the boy child, because the girl child is already empowered. The girl child is not yet empowered, and I want you just to look at a very short census. In the room, here we are. We were invited as church leaders and maybe scientists. You can just look at a short census of the people or the participants who are here, and you can just know that the girl child is not yet there. But we should embrace positive masculinity and positive femininity, so that all of us will work towards, a better world for each one of us. But then an issue or a question, maybe that would be considered maybe in the next book or in the next action, is about we're talking about a boy child, and in the context of a father. We also have boy child who either is with a single mother, that child still remains a boy child. We also have a child who is with a mother who is widowed. We also have a boy child who is living with a guardian. And so we also need to, from where I sit, we also need Daktari also to tackle these issues, because we need to come out, because maybe that child is still saved, but is born, is living with a single mother. But the boy is a Christian. So how are we going to handle such cases? And towards lunch, we were talking with somebody, same with my culture. We say, mwana ule mkuu eana nomere. This means the first son, me I thought when I grew from Kambani, I thought my sister is equal to my father. is like my father. Later to be corrected and told it is the son who is our fourthborn, is the one who is equated to the father, and not our firstborn who is a girl. So let us also tackle those issues so that we raise people together.
Hello everyone. I'm Chiza, and I'll speak about religion and boy child, okay? So we have a program with mainstream churches where they have programs of men come together, they buy land, development, yes? So you find that most of us in the Pentecostal churches, we don't have such programs. That is why you're missing the young men in church, okay? So men don't have anyone to copy. So if we included programs where the young men are taught by the elderly men, that would sort the issue. The other thing is LGBTQ. I have been doing my research and have realized that most of these boys, they were molested when they were young. And that trauma, they have carried it to adulthood, and that is what has made them to hate this gender and go there. The other thing is that single mothers are many, and these boys don't grow up in families where we have father figures. So anakuwa akiona mama yake ni lipstick, shosho yake ni lipstick. So what will prevent this boy from when he grows up, where wouldn't he do the lipstick and the cutexes that he sees? So as much as we are trying to tackle the LGBTQ issue, we should focus on these matters. Thank you.
Thank you so much. A round of applause. We started 20 minutes late. We have finished 15 minutes late. So I've still saved you 5 minutes. Will you clap for me? Thank you so much. I think what is beautiful in the community of faith is that even where there are those gaps of fathers, there are still father figures. And I think the church still has a great opportunity and responsibility. Thank you so much to our distinguished panelists, Dr. Githuku, makofi kwako. Please let's appreciate Dr. Mwiti, Mrs. Lydia, Dr. Gashenia, Professor Migambo, Reverend Winnie Meto. Asanteni sana. Back to the MC.
Thank you very much. Let us appreciate the session coordinator. Yo makofi. Let us do better. Thank you very much. Now that I am the MC, I did not get to ask a question, but because I have a mic, I'll say one thing, that my heart is still not at peace. Even after all those conversations, my heart is still not at peace. I'll give a small analogy. Imagine you're in a boat in an ocean, and that boat which is ferrying you, you start poking holes in it. What will happen to the boat? The boat will capsize and you will sink. Truth? Now, when I hear us, every time nowadays I hear conversations about culture, people are very negative about it. They are very offensive, on the offense. They say, no, culture. But it is the vehicle that we are kind of sitting on. It is the language we are using. It is where you married from. You married from the most of us here, from the culture, expectations and all that. We have so much of culture that we cannot afford to poke holes in it. In fact, what Dr. Githuku said is, we need to use the gospel to illuminate on culture and pick up the good things about it and keep them. A wise man called Kenyenye 2024, when he was sitting there, he wrote, a few bad elements in culture do not entirely relegate culture to wholesome condemnation. I felt like I almost want to patent that. I want to patent that. But anyway, we have the Vice Chancellor with us here. I don't want to continue with this, but I'm saying, what is so wrong with going back to something good? I'll repeat it. What is so wrong with going back to something good? But But just because we are saying going back, everybody is, no, we cannot go back. But if it is good, it is good. If it is working with us, that is my closing remarks, even if I was not in the panel. Now, I want to invite the DVCAA to come and welcome the VC to make very brief remarks. Let us appreciate Professor Chemorian.
Thank you. Can we appreciate Reverend Kirienye for the good work he has done? And in my own request, I want us to appreciate the team that has just finished speaking to us, Dr. Mwiti, Dr. Githuku, Professor Bikambo. I didn't know that Canon Lay, are you Lay? You are not Lay. Can speak so powerfully. We thank God for that gift. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it has been a long day. But what excites me most is the way you are seated. You are really people who mean. When we invited you, you confirmed your attendance, and you have demonstrated that you are serious about it, you planned it, and you have stayed with us, and we really want to appreciate that. We made an error. We should have announced that we have tea at the back, but still we'll have our tea. But that was an error. Because time has gone, and we have reached where we have reached, and once I hand over the mic to the person I want to introduce, that would be the end for today. Allow me to just make a couple of announcements for tomorrow. And we will focus on two themes. We will be addressing the question of artificial intelligence. Please go and do an assignment. Read, research, ask the question that you want to ask and answer it, but come here with an informed mind so that we build one another. There's a lot that is happening. In my own understanding, I think this is colonialism in another way. You are just listed there and then you are using ChatGPT and then you think you have an answer. That is somebody's answer. And they are making money there. We are here. But go and think about it. There is something positive about it. Second, so we will have that theme of AI, and then we'll have another theme on biotechnology and genetic engineering. These are very exciting topics. They are also timely. As you know, not long ago, our country, even up to now, I'm not sure that everybody knows that GMOs are around, and whether we have understood what they mean, we do not know. And so we need to be here tomorrow. They have prepared adequately, and they'll be there. We will also have another guest in the afternoon, Canon Professor Joseph Kalgalo, who is a bishop of Nairobi Diocese. Will also be coming here to speak to us briefly about the Anglican Science Commission. What they are doing work like ours, but in another context, and he has a lot that he is going to share with us. For the sake of introducing our Vice Chancellor who is here, let me just recap on what we have done in the morning. Vice Chancellor, sir, we began well, and we want to appreciate you for giving us that permission to begin. We understood your busy schedule. We were even worried that you might not be able to make it, but still you have come because you love us and you really wanted to be in this conference. We have participants from various churches. I've just been listing that we have 9 churches and NCCK represented here. And so this is a conference, indeed a conference that is interdenominational. We also have the Muslim faith represented here. And so these are people who have been, some of them you know them, some of them they new. But I'll just mention a few that you may have known. Our own Bishop, Dr. Stanley Michuki, you know him, you have met him before. He is the president of the Pentecostal Congress, and also the founder of Heroes and Heroines Foundation. By the way, that is also interfaith. There are people who have done a lot in faith and nobody recognizes them. I go to my village, they suggest names that go to the to government for recognition. It's only the politicians. No one thinks that a pastor is a leader and the bishop is doing a great job. You know, recently we had a big conference in Eldoret where we recognized just a few people, and some of them are here. I want to mention the Archbishop Benjamin Kibarabara. And today he taught us something very interesting. Do you remember what he said? Yes. He told us they are demons of New York and he chased them away. Can we appreciate Bishop